Hi, everyone. This is Chrissy from Pongos Learning Lab, and I am here today for another cool job interview. Today, our cool job interviewee is Andi Wilkison, and she is an Agile Software Development product owner. So, Andi, can you introduce yourself and tell us what exactly that is?
Hi, I'm Andi Wilkinson, and I'm a product owner in Agile Software Development. And what that means is that I play an important part on a team that develops software, and we develop that software agilely. So the first thing you should know is that software development is a team sport. I think a lot of people think that software development is just someone sitting and coding and coming up with wonderful software. And that's a really important part of it, but it's not the only part. You have product people like me, you have testers, and you also have planning people like a project manager that help everyone figure out timelines and things like that. And the role of a product owner is to really help the team understand what the customer wants. What's the problem that needs to be solved? What needs to be built? So the way I kind of explain this to family and friends is if you went to a restaurant and the chef had to keep running out to every table to ask what they wanted to order and every ingredient, do they like this? Do they like that? The chef wouldn't have any time to cook. Also, a chef might have become a chef because they like working with food, not with people. So what you do is you find a people person that's a waitress that wants to go and talk to people and find out what they like, and they can answer questions about the menu and kind of be an important part of that team so that the chef can do what they're best at and the customer gets the food that they love. And that's what a product owner does for the software team. So I talk to customers and find out, what do you want? What's the problem you're trying to solve? And I can get all those details together and compare them against maybe software we already have or something and kind of work in the background to come up with a plan. And I can talk to that customer again and again, and I can write it down and organize it so that by the time it gets ready to bake in the oven, all the components and questions are there so that the developer doesn't have to, stop what they're doing and maybe lose their place in what they're doing to go find out these answers. If I'm doing my job really, really well, I've given them everything they need, but things do come up. So the idea is that I could be a proxy for a customer and answer a question with the customer in mind so that that question can be answered really quickly rather than having to, send an email, wait for a meeting, have a couple days go by before you get to the customer. So my whole thing is to try to make sure that the customer is happy. It's hard. Sometimes I have opinions and I'm like, oh, this would be really cool if we did it like this. And the customer's like, no, I don't need that. Other times I have a suggestion that's awesome and the customer likes it. But then that's where you do have some technical knowledge where I would try not to suggest something that is impossible. So your waitress, if you go to an Italian restaurant, she's not going to say, oh, well, if you love Chinese food, we should cook you this. Then you go to talk to the chef and the chef's like, I don't have half those ingredients. That's kind of my thing too, except with software. So I can kind of say, maybe we should think about this and kind of maybe guide some technical stuff, some not, but then I can also go and have a really detailed conversation with the developer, think through all the ideas on the table, reject some. That way, when we come back to the customer, it's maybe a little bit more polished down to one or two good ideas so that the customer doesn't have to become an expert in everything. I'm kind of doing that for them. So again, software is just a real team sport. You have people that are going to test it to make sure it works great. You're going to have people that are going to code it to make it do what you want. You have people that are going to help you plan. And being a product owner is just one part of the software team.
Great. Awesome. Now, part of your title is Agile. Can you explain what Agile means?
Yes. So Agile is a methodology, and actually it is very popular with software developers, but it can be used in other areas too. And what it means is that you're going to iterate and show your customer things, show your customer things as you go. It's not going to be a surprise big bang. So one of the things to think about it would be those reality TV home decoration shows, right? Where somebody says, oh, I really like nautical theme and I like this. And then they go away for 2 months and then they surprise them and show them their whole house. And you at home might be going, yeah, that's kind of ugly. And the person on TV is smiling because they don't want to be embarrassed, but maybe there's something there that they're like, oh, that wasn't quite what I meant. So the idea with Agile is that it's evolved from original software development, which was what we call waterfall, which is kind of like the TV show. Give somebody all the requirements and then they go away and then surprise, you hopefully like it. But sometimes we found people didn't. So the idea here is we stop along the way to give people a chance to give feedback. So when someone goes to the paint store and they pick 4 or 5 colors or they've got a fabric, they can show them, and is this what you meant by nautical? Hey, you said swirling colors. Is this what you meant? Because sometimes when you see something, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, yeah, no, that does look silly. Or that looks like a little kid bedroom, not like what I had in mind. And so it's a chance to get some feedback before the software is done. So what I do in that is I prioritize how we are going to develop. So if we're going to do a software, say it's going to be a storefront, what I might say is, well, the most important thing is that we can show everyone the products we sell. Then the next thing would be maybe we've got to be able to take money for them. And, I would say maybe the last priority would be that we need to show custom making orders and stuff. The first thing we need to do is get the stuff out. So what I could do is have someone develop that. We would test it, make sure it looks nice. We'd show it to the customer and get some feedback before we went on to add in more and more features. That way, if something wasn't quite right, they could say so and we can make adjustments early on rather than getting close to a deadline and making something that they hate. So part of that means you have to have thick skin. You have to be ready to ask for feedback, and you have to be willing to put yourself out there and say, and truly mean it. Do you like this? What could I have done differently? And you want to get it right. And that's why you talk to them a lot in the beginning, but you need to be open for maybe you didn't get it right. Maybe something has changed. That's another great thing. Sometimes, like if you were working on a website a couple of months ago, and then all of a sudden the pandemic happened, people are staying at home. If you didn't check back in with your customer, you might not have gotten the opportunity to hear that, well, now people can't go in the store, so they want to deliver a little differently. So it's just a way to open yourself up for feedback. What can we do better? What have you learned? What has changed? And make small improvements as you go so that the product in the end isn't a surprise and that they love it.
Mm-hmm. Great. It's an excellent explanation. It's probably the best I've heard about Agile development. So
it's what I love to do.
Awesome. So what did you study? Where did you go to school to be a product owner?
No, I went to school for marketing and international business. I wanted to open an international jewelry store one day, and kind of figured business was good because you want to make money whatever you do, and then international business would be useful for jewelry. But when I graduated school, I wasn't ready to go there yet, so I got a job at a desk. That became my short-term dream. And it was with a marketing company, and we would make maps and we would put store locations on a map. So if you think about a pizza store, and you could draw lines to show where they delivered to, and you could make reports. That way, if they wanted to send out coupons, they would know the best places to send the coupons. And the software was awful. And so what happened was that I would be trying to deal with the software, and my customer wants the map to look like this. And so then we would figure out, well, how can we trick it? Can we, if I do it backwards, if I tell it to save and then print and then tweak it, can I get the result I'm looking for? And I just had fun with that. And so I really liked that software thing, which I never would have thought about before. So our company had a project that was to make, faster, stronger stuff. And I had the opportunity to say, hey, if you're going to do it, could you do this? Because I love that. And that would be so cool. And so I just kept throwing in my 2 cents, and they kept coming back and asking me, hey, would you like this or would you like that? And the next thing I knew, I got to be near the developers and by the testers and test things myself. And I was hooked. I loved it. It was so much fun. So from there, I just kind of started getting involved in every development project I could. And then that became kind of like my life 12 years ago, just one step at a time. But it was just an example, I think, of saying yes and being positive. You know, you can't complain about, I hate this, I hate that, but having a solution, say, hey, if we could do this, that would be so cool. But, you know, saying yes and asking nicely can get you into all kind of fun stuff.
Nice. Did you get any kind of professional certifications to
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't until a little bit later, but I am a certified business analyst. And what that means is that I have experience and the ability to what they call illicit requirements. So you learn a lot of techniques about how to talk to people and get to the root of, you know, what they're looking for, kind of how to be inquisitive. There's also some practical skills with that. So things like drawing a decision tree. So, you know, if a customer comes to your website and they want to buy something, what's the first thing they might do? And if they say, example, I want to buy a shirt. Well, then the next thing they might have to decide would be what size, what color. Do they want to put it in the cart and keep shopping, or do they want to put it in the cart and check out? So when I'm kind of planning our software in that way, I use diagrams to draw that out. And that's all part of business analyst. I have a certification for Scrum Master. That's related to the Agile software. It's just kind of some best practices about how you're agile. So for example, our teams have stand-up meetings every day. We try to literally stand up so that they don't go on and on and on. So the idea is 3 questions. You know, what did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? And if you're blocked. And so the idea is just quickly you get people together. It can be virtual, just to share that information really quickly, because then your teammates know what they can help with, so that we don't have to wait for something to go really, really wrong. You know, hey, I heard you were working on this, and then somebody asked me a question about it. I think we should talk about it. That comes to the surface right away. And then we do meet, as part of that, you have some practices about how you prioritize your work. And one of the big things in Agile is that you talk about a lot as a Scrum Master is what they call a retrospective, which means kind of after you finish a piece of work, you talk about it, what went well, what didn't go well, what you can learn from it, so that the next time. So a lot of people in school do that. You know, you get a report card, you sit down with your parents, you know, what didn't go well, and you try to fix it. But the idea with Agile and Scrum and all of that is to just keep trying to push yourself to do better. So the team's going to be honest. You're going to hear feedback. I didn't like the way Andi wrote her decision tree. It was confusing. So then it's up to me to say, okay, well, now I know that, I can fix that. So that instead of 2 years later finding out that for 2 years they've been not helping, I can, you know, learn that with a retrospective and adjust that. So that's the Scrum Master. And then the product owner is specifically about the role that I play on the team. And that certification helps you learn about, you know, prioritizing. The idea is to prioritize things so that if you ever have to stop, the most important stuff is done first. So for example, I always say with prioritizing, everything sounds really important, but the reality is you can't always afford, you don't always have the time. So I tend to think about if you go to the grocery store and you know you've only got $10 and you want dinner, you're probably not going to go buy the napkins and plates. First, you know, you're probably going to look for your protein and something to fill you up and maybe some drinks. So it's just a way of kind of putting that list together. That way, as a team, we work on the most important things first. Sometimes the fun stuff is distracting, like the candy aisle, but a product owner is going to help make it so that what you do makes the customer most happy first. So those are different certifications that kind of came later, which was nice because I didn't have a technology background. But a big part of it, I think, is really just being willing to learn and listen as you go. And, you know, if I could have do it again, I might do technology. I might do a technology degree because you can learn some great stuff there too. But having a background in business helps me understand how my customers think. Mm-hmm. So that has an advantage as well.
Okay. Oh, awesome. So if somebody was, if any of the kids were that are watching are interested in doing something like this, what are some subjects that they're doing in school now that might be good for them to really focus on? I mean, they should really pay attention in all their classes, but what are some subjects that you think may be good for them to really make sure that they're excelling in them?
Sure. I would say math for sure, because it does always kind of come down to, when you're developing a software for a business, there usually is some math involved. So you want to be able to check things. And so you don't have to know the most complicated math, but you need to be able to understand the steps of a problem and work through them, to double check your software. And then I would say reading and writing. And in particular, when it comes to reading and writing, I think learning to listen for those little details. So when you're reading a book, catching sometimes things that aren't being said. Sometimes a customer is saying something, but they're saying it in a roundabout way. So when you're reading and you're really thinking about, the meanings of things, that's a skill that can really help when you deal with people. And then writing is awesome because I don't write books. I'm not a novelist, but when I have to write requirements, I need to be able to use very specific language. And sometimes, if you are a little unclear when you write something and leave things vague, it can cause some big confusion. And I do a lot of writing things up to share with customers. So I might have a phone call with somebody and they're telling me 10 million things. And so I want to send it to them afterwards to make sure I got it right. And I need to write that up. So I would definitely say reading, writing, and math are the big ones. But really, anything I think that keeps you asking questions and getting in that habit of digging deeper. So it could even be science. Just how's this work? And keep asking questions is a good practice to have. And then the ability to talk to people and not be shy about it. So if there's a science project that has you explaining something to your class, embrace it and try to, learn and improve your public speaking.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. So we have a few Girl Scouts that are watching this series and they sent us some questions that they wanted me to ask. The first one is are you in a male-dominated field?
Yes. So what's interesting, though, is that it's not entirely. So software in general is a lot of men. However, in my experience, the product role and the QA tester role do tend to have a lot of women. So although it is a lot of men there's definitely, I'm not alone by any means. There's disciplines within technology that do have a lot of women.
Okay. And have you ever encountered any stereotypes around that?
Yes, I definitely have. There's been times where, a customer may say, well, I really need to understand this. So let's get the developer in here. And sometimes the developer could absolutely be the one to understand something. But then sometimes it's like, well, actually, I was the one that wrote this whole decision logic. All they did was what I asked them to do. So if we've got a problem with the choices that are being made, that's something that I could better explain than that person. But every once in a while, somebody, it does seem like, will be trying to say, but not say, hey, let me talk to the dude that did this. And you're like, but I did this. But, I think that more often than not, once somebody works with me and they understand that I am detail oriented and I wrote things down, that even if they might have been tempted to think that way, I can usually bring them around. But, not 100%. But what's great is that I've never experienced that with the guys on my team. In software development on my team, everybody treats everyone's role as important as it is. So male or female, it's just what are you doing to help the team? And that's the best part.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm a software, as you know, I'm a programmer. Mm-hmm. So I've experienced some of those stereotypes as well. So they're there. So another question the Girl Scouts have, are there any women that are in your field that were sort of trailblazers or acted as mentors for you?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. And that's where I can say truthfully that product is kind of a women. So one of the things, my gosh, okay. So when I first started, and I wasn't even in technology yet, I had a director named Emily, and she was fearless in terms of starting a software and giving something an experimental try. You'd ask her a question and she had never even touched something before, and she'd open it and just start, well, let's see. And it made me feel braver. I think for a long time I was waiting for an invitation or training on something, and watching her just kind of experiment made me feel like, oh, well, okay, I can try that. There's another director named Deb that I would joke, I would watch her like she was like my own personal rock star. She had the ability to take a room full of people that don't agree on anything, laugh, and make them all agree in the end. Where I always would walk into a room with such a strong point of view that it would always slip out. And then I could kind of almost make the room divided more, where she just had a way of saying, oh, well, that's a great idea. And then what if? And people just thought alike all of a sudden, and everybody was in the same mission. And I just thought, wow, if I could just embrace that skill or learn just a little bit like her to do that. So that was another one. I had a boss named Lucy, and she was just the Girl Scout, always prepared. So she did not wing things. And I think sometimes I had a tendency to do that, but she would come up with, she would give somebody an agenda and she'd come up with a plan, and she would run through answers and practice. She was a big one in showing me to practice. Yes, the software, but if you're going to train somebody, maybe we should practice. And that was huge. I actually had an official mentor. He was a man, but the reason I was given that assignment to have that mentor was because of a woman. A female CMO came to different offices asking people, what they thought, what was happening. And I spoke up and gave honest feedback, and it was constructive. It wasn't just complaining. And she just thought, this is a person that wants to make the company better, not a person that wants to complain about it. And then she put my name in to be part of an executive mentor program. And that opened a ton of doors. So there's been some women that have really helped me a lot along the way. It's been really cool.
Awesome. Very good. Now, are you currently working with everything that's going on in the world? Are you able to work from home?
Yes, you can work from home, and I'm actually starting a new role Monday. So that is a great benefit of working in technology. Even before this, I would work from home if, flexible, depending. At times I've worked with teams where I was the only person in Maryland. So I was at home because there's no reason to go to an office. At times I've worked at home just because I had a delivery that day or a doctor's appointment. So technology jobs offer a lot of flexibility, which is also really cool.
Right. Excuse me.
Sure.
Sorry. It's not COVID. It's not coronavirus. Allergies. I always got to preface that. Yeah. What kind of software do you work on?
I've worked on all sorts of things. So I did marketing software, which was, like I said, where should the coupons go? I've done benefit software. So for a health portal, so you might log in and see that you went to the doctors, how much your insurance is covering, how much you need to bill, or pension, you could log in and see how much you had saved towards your pension. Or sign up for health benefits. So you might say, this year I want a gold plan and I want to add my spouse. I've done tax software. So for companies that send their employees a W-2 or 1099, and even the software that they would use to upload it to the government. So that's the least fun kind of stuff you can do, because instead of talking to people to find out what they want or what they need, I had to read government documents to find out what the specifications were for those files. So not nearly as much fun. I think I like people better. I like people and software better than books.
Right.
But so it's been all over the place. And I think one of the interesting things that I learned later, at first when I got involved as a product owner, I thought it was because I really knew marketing. And then over the years, I came to find out that it's not, you don't have to really know a ton about anything to develop it. What you need to do is be willing to learn and find out and have the process. So like when I did the tax thing, I didn't know anything about taxes, but I knew that my process was what's the most important thing and to work down. And that's been really fun because I've done a lot of moving around where like the healthcare space, my customers know that business inside and out. So all I needed to be able to do was to listen to them and then communicate to the developers. And so what I found was the sky was kind of the limit. You could go anywhere. So my next adventure, I'll be doing some software for a company that helps keep the stock market kind of honest. They spend a lot of their efforts trying to find abnormalities and fraud and verify transactions and stuff there, which is a totally new space for me. But it made me, the whole last 12 years has made me braver that anything can be done. You just have to break it down piece by piece. And then the next thing you know, you feel like an expert in something. Right. But all it is just being inquisitive and let the experts tell you. That's a huge one. Even with the technology and coding itself, I know some things, I've done some coding, but if you're willing to find the expert and ask some questions and learn and never stop, you can do just about anything.
Okay. Is there a particular type of software that's sort of your favorite, like kind that you've worked on that you really like, especially like?
I really liked when I did the portal, it was like .NET. So it was a lot about, what people liked and what people would find intuitive. So that was really fun because a lot of it was visual. So we could sketch up a page and say, okay, if I was somebody that didn't know technology at all, if I say I was a retiree that never worked on a computer, but I need to log in and figure out my pension, how can I make this so that they would intuitively understand it? So that they could, find stuff without calling their grandkid or something like that. And I thought that was really fun because, of course, as a consumer who uses the web, I hate it when I run into a website and it's like, where's the card? Or where's the phone number to call the person? Or where's this or where's that? I really like intuitive stuff. One of the things we talk a lot about in design is a great example is doors that don't open the right way. Is it the person or is it the door? And we joke sometimes, oh, this door is awful. Sometimes it's the door. If the door handle is the wrong kind of handle, it could lead you to believe that you should be pulling it open instead of pushing it open. And you see doors that have signs on them that say push or pull. That sign shouldn't even be necessary because the door should be telling you what to do. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about those things when we're doing something for the public, like a portal, because you want people to feel like it's welcoming and like they're an instant expert. I've had a lot of fun just in general. And I think that people, they go to websites and think, oh, I would do this differently. I would do that differently. Could be good product owners or testers one day. When we're doing all the Google Meet stuff in the Google Classroom, I've wanted to call their product owner and give them some feedback. This is what you should. That's the downside is that you do always have feedback. But I think it's a lot of fun to try to make something that, is just easy and intuitive. That can be a lot of fun. I enjoy that a lot.
Great. Awesome. Well, we're just about out of time. So if anybody has any questions, please comment them. And I'll ask Andi live before we finish. So again, if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments and I'll ask Andi. Andi, do you have any advice to kids that are watching? Anything that you want to share with them?
Yeah, I'll just say my biggest advice is to say yes and keep trying at things. I was dyslexic, dysgraphic in school. I really was a very troubled reader. I couldn't read really well until probably about 5th grade. And I do stuff that I never thought I would be able to because I just kind of keep at it. So don't ever feel like you can't do something. You can. And the thing is your differences might be better. For example, my trouble with reading actually is great for software development because I look at things in such a detailed way because I had to. So I see things sometimes that other people wouldn't see, and that's a result of me just being a little bit different.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So if we don't have any questions, I just want to say thank you again for agreeing to be interviewed. And I see you're looking down. Does he want to say hi?
I'm handed books are falling. At home mom, you know.
Yeah, exactly. One of the fun things of working from home. So thanks again for coming on and being
doing this. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And so our next interview tomorrow, we are interviewing Tina Thomas. She is a private investigator, so I can't wait to hear what she does. Yeah. So tune in tomorrow again at 1 o'clock. And then next week, I've got a couple other interviews lined up. I can't remember what they are right now, but I know I have a few lined up, and we're going to keep working on interviewing more cool jobs. Since school is going to be out through June now, I'm going to keep adding these. So we're going to try to do 2 or 3 a week. So if you have a cool job and you want to be featured on this program, then send a message, comment on any of the videos, and we'll be happy to have you. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.